You might remember this guy here, Dan Wootton, because he wrote some bad things about Johnny Depp in The Sun. False allegations, as a matter of fact, and what happened is Dan got allegations against him out. We don't know if they're totally false or totally not, but the point is, he got canceled because of them, just like Johnny got canceled because of those false allegations out on Johnny. But now Dan's trying to make a little bit of a comeback. He put a video out. I haven't seen it. I'm going to react to it. Just for the record, he was canceled from GB News, Mail Online, and pretty much everything else. Now, I will say, Dan's got 1 million views on this thing already, so not so bad. Let's see what we got.
Now, where was I before I was so rudely interrupted? Wow, weeks of silence have turned into months of silence. I'm sure you remember why. In one of the biggest MSM beat-ups in history, I was taken off air because of comments Lawrence Fox made about the flame-throwing leftist commentator Ava Santina.
Okay, so it looks like he's going to talk about the Lawrence Fox stuff, maybe not get into the allegations against him, but we shall see. And I hope he does, because let's hear his explanation from his own mouth at this point in time.
As my friend Megan Kelly told me, you were the first broadcaster in this world to be cancelled for not being offended enough by something. GB News itself argued to our off-communist government regulator that this entire incident did not breach the broadcasting code. And there was absolutely no outrage over the British bashing corporation broadcasting Corinne Mitchell and Carol Vorderman talking about not wanting to shag Lawrence on Have I Got News for You days later. But as is often the case, the establishment cancel culture mob won. My complete cancellation in the mainstream media is no coincidence, by the way. I knew it was inevitable. Just days before the Lawrence incident, that so-called conservative Caroline Dinenage called for me to be taken off air in...
Now, I gotta say, obviously, I disagree with everything Dan did as far as Johnny and the Sun and things like that, but I can't disagree with everything here. I think he pointed out that she said the same thing about him, but of course there's zero consequences whatsoever. But to be honest, I'm not super interested in this incident. I'm more interested in the allegations against him from Byline Times and that kind of thing. But all right, let's hear him out, what he wants to say.
In her role as the head of the UK Parliament's Media Select Committee. So we are increasingly becoming an authoritarian state where dissident voices are taken down by wholesale abuses of the political and legal system. Now the off-communists who have already destroyed free speech on TV, well, they're coming to patrol the internet.
Well, it is funny how Dan said that the court system here is, let's just say, in the wrong, out of control, getting to be authoritarianism. Well, what happened with the court system in the UK with the Johnny case? Let's see. Judge Nichol just believed Amber, and I guess whoever else. That wasn't authoritarianism, was it? Maybe Dan should have mentioned that, but I guess not.
I'm convinced that if I did not work for GB News, I would not have been under a sustained attack over completely spurious allegations made against me by a violent convicted criminal, convicted extortionist, convicted phone hacker, convicted activist, and an ex who had admitted to being a psychopath.
Okay, so he did mention it. Right there, he's talking about Alex Truby, his ex, who I guess does have that history, unless Dan's fabricating or lying about something and charges never came about. All right, the guy doesn't sound all there. And I must admit, we don't have medical report, video, audio, the thing I usually want when I am on people's side and defending people who are accused. However, Byline Times wrote some incredibly detailed articles, unlike, let's just say, Amber, Evan Rachel Wood, who just had their side of the story and said they didn't remember everything and that kind of thing. So it was more convincing. But in the end, I guess I've got to say the hard evidence did not come out against Dan. I got to keep it real. There was just something missing about it. But once again, Byline Times and the way they wrote things, pages and pages of details, you know, I wouldn't doubt it. Just to say for 100%, seems like we needed something else, like the witnesses saying something, saying, I'm the guy he videotaped, this was the time, I can confirm these things in court, you know, that kind of thing. which wasn't quite there.
And while I'm relieved that after 6 months I was completely exonerated by 2 investigations by the Metropolitan and Scottish Police, the determined attempt by Byline Times to quite literally destroy my life over lies nearly worked. Huge damage has been done because these days the process is the punishment, with social media acting as public executioner.
Right. Dan, are you fucking forgetting what happened to Johnny? What? I mean, mention that. I thought you were a journalist who brings out the facts. All right, let's bring out the facts. Johnny was accused, no proof, no nothing, canceled by Disney and Warner Bros., 2 companies bigger than the ones Dan was canceled by. Probably much bigger, by the way. Disney's worth $250 billion. GB News? Probably not. Mail Online? Probably not. They're pretty big, but not that big. So who got the worst cancellation, Dan? All right. Don't mention it ever.
I always said this was a witch hunt and there was no criminality. But now that's been confirmed by the police, do you think that's enough for the left?
Wait, what did the police confirm about Johnny? They confirmed that nothing happened when they went to the penthouse. And they confirmed that nothing happened at any other time. So, theoretically, Dan should be on Johnny's side and should have been pretty much the whole time based on the way he thinks about himself.
Of course not. Leftist so-called journalists James O'Brien, Emily Maitlis, Marina Purkis, and Carol Vorderman were all taken in by the Byline scam. You'd think they'd know better, especially O'Brien. But because these individuals disagreed with my politics, they were more than happy to swallow despicable lies, completely ignoring the law giving me a right to privacy before charge to preserve my reputation.
Well, the problem I have here is that Dan's politics flip-flopped. At one point he wasn't on the right. Now he is. He lied about things in The Sun, so how could I actually trust anything he's saying unless they're brutal facts? He's got a few brutal facts in there I can't debate, but if you get my drift, not like I'm going to trust every word out of Dan's mouth.
Well, it will now be one of the missions of my life to ensure that no one else has to go through a similar smear campaign.
That's funny, man. Well, why don't you start with an apology to Johnny Depp, who historically went through the biggest smear, the biggest hoax ever. How about that? What's going on, Dan? It's like the elephant in the room is the blue whale in the room. It's so big, it's crushing. How could I take anything seriously he says if he doesn't mention Johnny?
I can tell you weaker people would not be here today to tell this story. But what I've learned over this period is that cancellation in 2024 is actually a gift, because your support these past weeks and months has been completely inspiring. You know the British MSM is broken. You know British politics is broken. You know the country is broken. Its infrastructure is crumbling. Our borders are unprotected. Our society is fracturing. And now even our legal system is collapsing. The elites ruling us have failed, but the people are good. We want a strong society based on the British values we no longer recognize on the streets of our increasingly lawless big cities or in our woke institutions, where you can lose your job simply for calling Sam Smith a man. He is, by the way. The impact of the off-communists has had an absolutely chilling effect on the ability to broadcast freely on TV in the UK if you step outside the cozy lefty establishment media consensus.
Okay, gonna stop it there because he said what I think is relevant to my channel. I'm not gonna dive into politics. I'm not in the UK, so I don't really know about how the country's going and things like that. Just my surface level opinion. But I agree with some things he said based on what I see going on in the US. However, I digress. Not exactly what we're here for. All right, so he did actually mention Alex Truby and the allegations by Byline Times. I'm happy he acknowledged it. However, gotta say, where's Johnny? Everything he's saying and happening to him is exactly what happened to Johnny that he was partly responsible for. So until he mentions that, well, gonna continue to criticize and Can't really hope the best for him. I can't really root for him, although I normally would out of this context if he was someone good who got canceled. But in this case, I gotta say, eh, I guess it's the karma people have been talking about. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. If you're not subscribed here, consider it. Doing pop culture, entertainment, following Depp and Heard still when something comes up. Meghan and Harry, little Marilyn Manson. If you're not subscribed here, consider it. If you don't, I'll be sad, but I'll get over it. See you next time.